Hello, everyone. Welcome to Annie's Flock. Today's video, I just want to talk. I'm not going to show you any birds today. I want to talk about them and the challenge when I had them at the beginning. So, my four birds, they have, my two budgies, they kind of have the similar background, but they were a little bit different. But then my conure and my Indian Reneg, they have completely different backgrounds than my budgies. So I just wanted to talk about the biggest challenge that I had at the very beginning when I had them, because maybe it's gonna help some people. And how did I kind of overcome this? So without going too much in details, but how I've been able to overcome and troubleshoot these challenges, because maybe it's going to help some of you guys if you run into similar situation when you first get your bird. So my first bird that I ever had was Baby Blue, my male budgie, that I got from a pet store. It was a very impulsive decision. I knew nothing about birds. I had a very small cage, and the very first challenge that I ran into was to clean the cage. And to clean the perches, and yeah, that was very difficult because that bird was from a pet store. It was absolutely not tame at all, was very young. So if you look into budgies, how you can tell how young they are, it's mainly they have markings on their head that disappears around like 3-4 months old. And their eyes are completely black at the beginning. And then they have like a circle that goes around like around 1 year old. But the main thing is really those markings on their head that disappears and around 4 months old maybe. And Baby Blue had those markings. So he was very, very young, and I didn't know at that time that he was actually a male because he was so young. And his mutation, his color mutation, also makes it very difficult because his cere on his beak will never become fully royal blue. He's now 2 years old and it never has been. Anyways, I digress. So the biggest challenge for me at the beginning was to clean the cage. How am I going to do this? So I decided to bring the cage in a smaller room, let him out, and slowly tried to get him back in. That was very stressful. And then I realized that he did not know how to fly at all. It was total chaos. And then other challenge that I encountered is mainly he was so scared of me, so scared of my hands. I couldn't approach him. Every time I was putting my hand in the cage, he would freak out and fly everywhere, panic, which is very typical for a budgie that you buy from a pet store, by the way. One thing that really helped me is to just leave my hand in the cage with pre-millet, holding it, and then just wait until he calms down, and then remove my hand and leave him alone. And then I would repeat this and repeat this and repeat this and repeat this and again and again and again until he comes to eat that pre-millet. Is that the best way to do it? Maybe not. Now that I have a little bit more experience with bird, I would probably do things a little bit differently. I would probably not put him in a small cage, because as soon as I put him in a flight cage, it completely changed. Everything changed. He wasn't scared of my hand anymore as much. He wasn't freaking out because he didn't feel stuck. My hand was so big in that small cage that it was scary. When I got this big flight cage, well, guess what? He had the option to fly away, right? So it was making him right from the get-go so much more comfortable. And then he learned how to fly in this big cage also, so his skills were getting better. So when he was getting out of the cage, he wasn't as panicked because he knew a little bit more what he was doing. So that was mainly the beginning of it. Then I had Tit Fluff, the female budgie. She was... So I don't know really if I got into a big challenge with her, because she is not really scared. It's interesting because and I think I'm gonna make another video specifically about this, is how much Baby Blue was a little bit of a timid bird, and Tit Fluff was like, although scared of me and wouldn't land on my hand or whatever, she wanted to explore. She was more curious. She would come closer to me. She was, I think the fact that she was more curious made it easier to approach her. And I already had that big cage, and then I was already approaching Baby Blue. He would land on my hand, so both together kind of learn from each other. And I think this is a really good tool, actually. If you have two birds that you're able to train together, that's great. Now I want to say that my budgies are semi-tame. They're not fully tame. They are and they aren't, in the sense that they are, but I don't do tricks with them like I do with my parrots. Budgies are very different. They're really fast, and you can't really give them like a treat itself, because it's small, so it's millet, like spray millet, so it's a little bit different. And this is actually something that I want to work on personally. Is I train a lot Lucy and Olive, and the budgies, they're together, and they're happy together. They're in a big flight cage, both of them, and I do let them out almost every day to fly around in my big living room, which is the biggest room in my house. I don't let them fly outside of the living room like the other ones, because they're small and I have two cats. So when they fly, the cats are not allowed in the living room ever. My two other ones, I don't have issues because they don't go towards the cat, and so it's not really a problem. But the budgies, that would be an issue. So I don't allow this to happen at all. I don't want to take any risks. So this is something that I want to work on. Okay, now I'm going way further than what I wanted to do with this. So let's put the budgies aside. Let's talk about Olive. When I got Olive a little bit more than a year ago, she was a 2-month-old baby, hand raised, a hand fed, super cuddly, that I actually ordered. No, go away. That I actually ordered from a breeder. So, and I told him I want her to be, I wanted to experience, I'm sorry, this is my cat. I wanted to experience what it is to have a hand-fed, tame baby parrot. Cuddly, not scared of me. This is what I wanted to experience. How, the difference, right, in between. The challenge with that. So he made her super social, always with humans, all of that, not scared of us, wanting to cuddle. She would fall asleep on me. It was just amazing. But putting that bird back into her cage was an absolute nightmare. Putting her back in her cage and also putting her to sleep. It was an absolute nightmare. It was like a toddler, trying to put a toddler to sleep, trying to tell a toddler to go in their room. It was just absolutely insane. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry about that. It was absolutely crazy. So she just wanted to be with me 24/7. And I work during the day, so that is not a possibility. So I had, and I know some people, they have their birds outside all day long. I personally doesn't like that for multiple reasons, and I will probably make a video about that in the future. I think there's a lot of anyways, I'll talk about this in another video. I have a lot of different opinions about this, and I don't think that would work for me anyways. If it worked for you, perfect, but that doesn't work for me. So yes, so Olive, to be able to put her in her cage was an absolute nightmare, and it took me months to figure that out. Trying to make her cage fun and amazing with toys, and I had to actually teach her a little bit to play with toys because she was so young. She didn't know anything. And their cage was really big because I like that format. This is going to be for another video. I'm going to talk about cages, but I like the big format cages, flight type of cages. So it was hard for her a little bit to actually navigate through that cage because she was, and the other thing is I got her, so I didn't know this. I should have asked, but for some reason, and again, it's being new in that world, I didn't ask or request. I didn't even talk about this with the breeder about clipping, wing clipping. I did not want to have my bird, I did not want her to have her wings clipped. But I didn't even think about asking. I didn't even think about saying it. I didn't think about at all. Like for me, I don't know. That was my mistake. I didn't think about this at all. So when she came, she was clipped. She was not heavily clipped, but she was clipped a little bit. So she's always been able to fly. But as a baby at the beginning, it was very difficult for her to fly because, you know, learning to fly when you have clipped wings, it's hard. It's really hard. So we worked on that. But anyways, I'm digressing again. So what I wanted to say about this is I had to teach her to love toys. I had to make her cage really, really fun for her to be able to love being in there. Because she didn't know what being in a cage really was. She was with humans 24/7 or almost. The other thing that really helped me is I started target training with her almost right from the beginning because I think it's a great way to bond and to have a clear communication, but that will be for another video. The details of all of this. So I was doing target training with her, and I was testing treats, what she was liking the most, and that again is going to be for another video, but and how you do this and why you do this. So, and then I realized that pine nuts was the absolute favorite treat ever. So what I started to do is every time she was in her cage, I would give her a pine nut. And that's the only time she would get pine nut. The only time. So I treated going in her cage as a trick. The only time you get pine nuts is when when you succeed to that treat. When you go into your cage, you get a pine nut. And until this day, it still works. She knows she's going to get her pine nut when she gets her in her cage. But now it's super easy. I just take her, put her in her cage, and then close the door. Or even sometimes give her pine nut in her cage and then close the door and she eats her pine nut. She knows she's going to get one, so she doesn't fight for it. She just goes in there. I didn't try to not give it. maybe I could try, but I like the fact that I treat going into her cage as a trick, and she gets the super treat for it, because that's honestly, this is what really worked. It really made a big difference. So that was the biggest challenge. And then the second biggest challenge was really put her to sleep. It took time and patience and routine on that end to be able to have her go to bed without screaming. Let's talk about Lucy now. So Lucy, I got her about 6 months ago. I may do a full video about her story. So I actually started an Instagram page for Annie's Flock. That's how I started it. And I started it just before having her, and because I knew I was about to get her, and I wanted to record or have document her story, if that makes sense. Lucy's very different. So Lucy, I had her from a breeder. She was a breeding bird that got rejected from the male that she was supposed to be paired with. And briefly, because I will probably tell her story more detail in another video, but basically she got rejected, and I decided to take her in because now I felt like I had, the budgies, but the budgies, they're so bonded together that honestly, they don't really care about me. They're just happy to be together and have each other. Olive was like so attached to me. She still is, but she's like, it was kind of easy because she was tamed already, right? And I kind of always looked at Indian ringneck and was like, oh, I'd love to have one. They're so pretty. They're talkative, although Lucy is not really. She doesn't talk, and she barely makes any noise. But I don't know. I always loved the way ringnecks are, and I find them to be very mysterious. I think they're mysterious birds. I don't know why. They're like mystical. I don't know why. Anyways, so I had this bird from that breeder. Didn't know much about her. I just knew when I got her that she was untamed, completely untamed. He said, that's his word, not to be handled. Not aggressive, but not to be handled. So, I mean, you can have an idea that she's probably not super friendly, so if you can't handle her, right? So when I got her, I realized that she probably never been handled with, I don't know how to put this without, she probably never had been handled with kindness, maybe, or gentleness, or without force. Also, I believe that she probably got a toe, and I think I talked about this in another video that I did, but I think she had a toe bit by another bird, and because she's missing the tip of it. And I didn't know anything about, I realized this when I had her. Her diet wasn't really good. So there was a lot of challenges. So I knew before having her that it would be a huge challenge for me. And then when I got her, and I realized that it would be an even bigger challenge than I thought. So I didn't have huge expectations from the beginning, to be honest. Honestly, I was thinking, if I'm able to train her for target training and not handle her at all and just let her go out of the cage, target her out, do the cleaning, target her back in, I'm going to be like, you know, kind of happy. The biggest challenge that I had, and you're probably going to laugh at this, when I first got her, was to actually feed her. Was to remove the bowl of water and change the water and put it back into her cage, and then removing the bowl of food and putting back the bowl of food into her cage. So the cage that I have, they don't have, you know how some of them, they have that little door that you can flip the door open, put the bowl in, and flip the, those are not the type of cages that I have. So you have to put the bowl in. So there's a little holder and you put the bowl in. So you actually have to open the cage and put your hand and your arm into the cage with the bird. And I didn't want to let her out right away because he had told me, well, maybe you should get a net in case she escapes. And I did not want to go take that route. So I did not want to use a towel or a net. So I wanted to be able to train her to be able to target her in her cage, move around. Once this is working, I gave myself a goal of a week so that in 1 week from then, I would be able to target her out, clean the cage, target her back in, which kind of worked okay. Took way longer than I thought, but it kind of worked. But honestly, she was so territorial over her cage, so scared of my hands, my fingers. She would lunge at me and try to bite me every single time I get my hand in there. So what I started doing is day one, as soon as I got her, I started target training with her. It was hard at the beginning because her diet was crap. She was eating treats all day long. So I had to modify this a little bit. And for anyone that has done diet conversion, you know it takes time. This little lady is about 7 years old. So it's 6 months later. It's not quite where I would want to be, but it's way better. That's another challenge, but the first ever, the biggest challenge at the beginning really was about to just put my hands in that cage. It was insane. Kind of scary, actually. So that was the biggest parrot that I have ever had. And she just wanted to bite me. So I target trained her through the bars, through the cage, and through target training, because even giving her the treat through the bars, she was so aggressive to get that treat that sometimes she would like bite me at the same time. So through that target training, I target her and I train her to be gentle. That's going to be for another video to show you how to do that. But honestly, if my bird get into a upset mode or whatever sometimes, or like, because sometimes they just switch, right? They get really excited and then it flips over from excitement to aggression really fast. I don't know if you ever experienced that, but it happens sometimes. And honestly, I can use target training to calm the bird down and bring them back to a calm place, to gentleness, to no aggression, because part of the target training was not only to touch a target or to move around, but it was how do you touch that target. So Lucy is actually really good at this now. And if you've watched my last video about the flight, you can see that now she's actually landing on my hands. So in 6 months, we went from me being scared to change the water and the food in her cage to having her to fly onto my hands. So there's a lot of content here that's going to come in regards to this for sure, because there's a lot to show, to explain on how I've been able to do that. For me, Lucy, I have surpassed my expectations from the beginning with her already. So now it's just gravy. So I'm excited to what comes next for sure. So hopefully you like that video. Hopefully you find it interesting how different birds with different backgrounds I run into total different challenges. And if you have similar experiences or stories, you can share them in the comment with me. I'd love to hear about your stories for sure. And maybe if you learn a few things here to help you to go through those challenges, I'm glad. And if you have questions and you want me to dig a little bit deeper into how I've been able to, overcome something, let me know. Don't forget to subscribe, share this with any bird lovers. And we'll see you next time. Okay.